Hello guys, welcome. This is Deepika from mytutorialrack.com and here is our next interview question. What is the difference between the throw and the throws keyword in Java? This is a very common question again. What is the difference between throw and throws with an S? Okay, so throw is when you manually have to throw an exception. That is what a throw keyword will be used, and throws keyword is basically used in the method definition, telling you that this method can throw an exception or may not throw an exception. So whoever is calling this method has to have a try catch block or has to handle this exception. Otherwise, it will go all the way to the JVM and JVM will throw the exception. So this is what the main difference between throw and throws keyword. So I repeat here, the throw keyword is used to manually throw the exception to the calling method. So if let's say in this example, if you see here, this is the example, I have defined a method called test exception divide, and I am telling that this method throws this arithmetic exception, and this is where the definition of the method starts. And here I am throwing this exception. So if the a is equals to 0 or b is equals to 0, then in that case it is going to throw you an arithmetic exception. So when you are creating an object of this class, if you are passing the parameters with value 0, it will throw you an arithmetic exception. This basically is the point where the exception is thrown, and this basically is telling that whoever is calling the method has to have a way to handle that exception. And the throws keyword is used in the function definition to inform the calling method that this method throws the exception. So if you're calling, then you have to handle the exception. And if you don't have this try catch block, then JVM, the method, whoever is calling the JVM, right? JVM is calling the main method. So whoever is calling the main method will be throwing the exception if you are not going to handle it. So this is what the throw and throws keyword is for. So throw keyword, when you actually manually have to throw an exception, that is when you're going to use the keyword throw. Throws is basically used in the method definition, saying that this method can throw a particular type of exception. So whoever is calling that method has to have a mechanism to handle that type of exception. So here you can see here I'm using the throws keyword. Basically I'm telling the main method, because in the main method I'm calling this, and you can see here this method is covered with the try catch block, and the catch block is of the type arithmetic. So main method has the mechanism for handling this exception, but what I'm telling in the body of the method, in the definition of the method, that this method can throw you an arithmetic exception. But at this point an exception is not thrown. Exception is thrown if you are passing a parameter where the a is 0 or b is 0. At that point an arithmetic exception will be thrown. So here, as you can see, I have created this method text execution drive, and it is throwing an arithmetic exception, and right now I am passing b is equals to 0. So if I run this program, here a catch block is there. So here I'm going to say system.out.println arithmetic exception is thrown because you have passed 0 values in the parameter. So this is what you are doing, and then we are going to save it and run it. So now what's going to happen is, if you're going to pass 10, 0, that means you have this b equals to 0 and it's going to throw you the exception. Otherwise, it's going to return a divided by b. Okay, so here I'm going to say the answer. It's going to be an integer int again. Answer is equals to this, and then I'm going to print the value of answer. So now if I say 10 by 0, this line is not going to get executed. This line number 10 will not get executed because this is going to throw an exception. And when the exception is thrown, we have a catch block. So this line is going to get printed on the screen. So here, run as Java application. And you can see here arithmetic exception is thrown because you have 0 values in the parameter. Now if I don't pass the 0 values, if I say 10, or we can say 2 here. Now in this case, this will be printed on the screen. No exception is thrown because none of the parameters are 0. So here in this case, if I run it, you're going to get an answer which is 5. Okay, so it worked fine. But if you don't have a try-catch block, then what's going to happen is JVM is going to handle on its own. So if I go ahead and comment this piece of code, this one, and I directly put it under here, and then this one from here, if I comment this entire piece of code, that means I am not handling myself, main method is not handling it. So if the exception occurs, and if you provide something like 0 here, now in this case an exception will be occurring, but you don't have a mechanism to handle it, you don't have a try catch to handle it, then in this case JVM is going to throw an exception, and this is how JVM throws the exception. Okay, but if you pass it 10 comma 2, in this case JVM is not going to throw an exception because none of the parameters are of the value 0, so it will run fine. But you, rather than asking JVM to throw the exception, you should have the mechanism of either a try catch, or you should throw that same and so somebody else will catch it, but you should have a mechanism to handle that type of exception. So this is the difference between throw and throws. Here is the point where an exception will be thrown actually, and this is just to tell you that this method has the capacity or has the capability or has a potential of throwing an exception. And what type of exception it is throwing? It may throw you an arithmetic exception. So whoever is calling, it is the responsibility of that method to have a mechanism to handle that type of exception. I hope this was crystal clear, and I'm going to see you in the next video with another interview question. So stay tuned for that. Thank you very much and have a wonderful rest of the day. Bye-bye and take care.